If you're wanting to grow strawberries in your garden this year, but maybe you don't have a lot of space, you may be considering growing them in a planter. Well, today I'm going to show you how I am growing strawberries in my Greenstalk vertical planters. I've grown in these Greenstalk planters for over a year, but I've actually never grown strawberries in them. All of my strawberries are in my regular garden, so I've grown strawberries before. Today though, I'm going to compare how these strawberries grow in either an original Greenstalk planter, which is much deeper here, and the leaf Greenstalk planter, which is more shallow. Greenstalk has planters that fit a variety of budgets. These ones in particular are going to be a little bit smaller. They're not going to be tall like this one. And so I'm going to compare different strawberries in both of these and see which ones grow best. So let's take a look at how we fill them, what strawberries I chose, and how to plant them in these containers. What I like to do when I'm filling my Greenstalks is I like to go ahead and mix everything ahead of time. You can do this as you go, but I like to put it in my wheelbarrow. I'm starting out with the Pro Mix potting mix. You can buy any kind of potting mix that's light and airy. Basically, you don't want anything that says raised bed soil or garden soil or anything with moisture retention properties. You want it to be light and loose. This Pro Mix is what I buy at my local landscaping company, but you can also find other Pro Mix formulas. But the thing is it doesn't have any fertilizers in it, even organic, and so I'm adding some Fox Farm potting mix to it as well because it has some of that in it. You could do the whole container in this Fox Farm. I just choose to use a blend of both for cost savings. I just like to eyeball it. I'm not really that concerned about having the exact ratio, but you can see even this Fox Farm potting mix is very light and airy, and I just like to mix it all together. And then what I want to do as well is add some slow release organic fertilizer that will help to fertilize any plant in your Greenstalk throughout the season. And again, you can get specific on the amount. The bag definitely tells you how much to use, but I tend to just kind of eyeball it. And then I'm also going to pour in some worm castings. Same way, just kind of eyeball it. And then I'm going to mix it all through. This is probably not enough to fill both planters, but we'll see how far we can get. And then if I have to mix another bag, I will. For the original planter, you're going to need 1 cubic foot of potting soil per tier. I've got 3 tiers of the original. And then the leaf planter is a little bit different. They tell you that on the website, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But when you order a Greenstalk, it tells you how much potting soil you need per tier. All right, let's go ahead and fill the tiers. We're starting out with the original depth planter. I think this is 11 inches, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're going to take the soil and fill it to the very top. It's important to fill each tier to the very top because when you start watering, the soil level will start to settle a little bit, and you don't want it to settle too much or that could cast too much shade on any plant. What I'll probably do with this one though, that's a little bit different, just because I'm planting bare root strawberries, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute and how it's a little bit different from transplanted strawberries, I'll probably need a little bit of extra room. So most likely I will fill it and then put the strawberry in, and then I'll fill it to the top after that. So I'll demonstrate that in just a second. If you're watching this in real time, Greenstalk Vertical Planter is having a sale on its evergreen planter, which is why I chose this particular color. Don't you love it? And it's in honor of St. Patrick's Day. The sale is good from March 16th through the 21st. So if you're watching this in real time, make sure and grab that discount on this beautiful planter. Everything green on their website is on sale, even the plant supports and all of their green planters. Okay, so now that I've got most of that filled, I'm gonna start planting the bare root strawberries here, and then I will end up finally filling it to the top. I'm planting bare root strawberries today. This is pretty much what I've been planting for several years. They definitely look different than what you might find at a garden center. And the reason I do this is because one reason is that they're a lot cheaper. I got these from Stark Brothers online, but I've also bought bare root strawberries from Norse Farms, and they've all done great for me. And you can see here that I've soaked them. I ended up soaking them overnight in a 50-50 dilution of organic Rev. And organic Rev is something that I use in almost all of my transplanting because it definitely helps with root development, and I've found a huge difference in my plants when I do it. And side note, I started soaking these last night and they did not have these green leaves, at least not this vibrant, so I can already tell that the soaking in the organic Rev is helping. You don't have to soak your strawberries, but it is recommended to do it at least 4 to 6 hours, but no more than 24 hours ahead of time. What you're looking at here when you're planting is this is the crown of the strawberry, and you want to make sure that that does not get buried, but you also don't want it to get too far up. So you want it like right at soil level here. That's why I didn't completely fill yet, because I want to make sure I get the level right on this bare root strawberry. And so what I'm going to do here is just get it in place, and then make sure and put the soil around it where it's at the right depth. You just want that crown to be a little bit above the soil, but not buried by it. And then I'll take some more soil and obviously fill in here to fill it to the top. And I'm going to do it with every one of them in this tier. You can see I'm placing it probably a couple of inches away from the side. I might move this one back a little bit, just because when it gets hot in the summer, the edges are going to dry out a lot quicker. So you want to make sure that these strawberries stay watered, especially in the heat of the summer. And that'll help it be able to not get dried out and also have the roots to be able to get the water, which is going to be centered more in the center part of the planter. If you don't have access to bare root strawberries, or you just want to go and get transplants from your local garden center, the only thing that you'll be doing differently is when you plant your transplant, you want to make sure that it stays at the same level that it was in the plant, that you don't bury the crowns of the strawberries, and then you don't make them too far out of the soil, but just right where the crown is barely above the soil level. Another thing you don't want to do is pack down the soil. You want it to be able to have the water flow and the airflow to get to the roots, so you don't want to press it down. You just want to barely put it to the top, but don't pack it in. The next one I'm going to plant in is this leaf planter, and you can tell there's a difference here in the height between the two. And the reason that I'm using both is because when I decided I wanted to try strawberries in the Greenstalk planter, I asked the folks at Greenstalk Garden, actually Ashley, if you listen to my podcast, I interviewed her, I think it was last year in 2021. I emailed her and I said, which one do you recommend? Do you recommend the leaf planter or the original for strawberries? And she said, well, actually we grow in both, but we've never had anyone do a side-by-side comparison. And if you listen to the Beginner's Garden podcast, or you know anything about me, you know I love doing experiments and doing tests. And so she's like, would you like to test and see? I'm like, absolutely, I would love to test that. So that's why I'm growing in both this original planter and the leaf, is because I'm just going to compare the two and see if there's any growth difference between the plants in this leaf planter, which is obviously more shallow, and the original planter. Another thing that I'm doing a little bit different is I'm planting ever-bearing strawberries. And if you do any kind of research on strawberries, I think I've got more than one there, then you know that there are mainly two different types. It's ever-bearing and June-bearing. Normally I grow June-bearing because they grow very large, juicy strawberries, and they bear once a year. And usually in my climate, it's actually May. I love those. But I've never really done a lot of growing of ever-bearing, and I thought if I'm going to have these on my patio, it'd be nice to be able to have strawberries all summer. So I'm trying a couple of different varieties of ever-bearing to see how they grow here in the planter. The benefit of ever-bearing strawberries is that they don't just give you one harvest each year and they're done. They actually are supposed to, we'll see, this is my first test, fruit from the early summer all the way until frost. And that will be fun to be able to have. Now, I hear that they're a little bit smaller than the June-bearing ones, but I'm not quite sure because these varieties are supposed to be large according to the website, so we'll see how they compare to the June bearing. This particular variety is the Eversweet strawberry, and the reason I chose it on the Stark Brothers website is that it said that it was heat tolerant. That's a problem that I have had in the past, not that often, but occasionally we would get so much heat in our summer that sometimes the strawberries can't take it without a lot of attention to water. I've only lost one strawberry crop and I was a very beginning gardener, but I do know with containers in general, they tend to, dry out a little bit more. So I thought if I'm growing these all summer in our Arkansas heat, I would love to have a strawberry that's more heat tolerant. And this particular variety is good for zones 5 through 8. Well, I'm in zone 7B, very close to zone 8. And so I thought this would be a good option. And it's called Eversweet, so it should be delicious. I have high hopes. I've got the bottom 2 tiers done, and again, these are the Eversweet, ever-bearing strawberries. The next tier I'm going to be doing is the Ozark Beauty, and again, it is zoned for zone 5 to 8, and is supposed to be very vigorous and high yielding. That's the reason I chose this one. So not only am I going to compare the growth of the strawberries in this original and the leaf planter, but I'm also going to compare the different ever-bearing varieties, the Eversweet and the Ozark Beauty, and we'll see which one gives us more berries. All right, we have all of the tiers filled and planted, and now I'm going to assemble them. Now, if you're starting out with a Greenstalk that's already built like this one, you can just use the same process. I've just found for a first-time planting, it's easier to fill them ahead of time and then stack them. If you buy the Greenstalk, you will have just the regular Greenstalk and it's going to sit stationary, but you do have the option of choosing either the mover or their new ultimate spinner. And I wanted to share with you why I think this is important for strawberries, and that is because especially in the summertime when it starts getting hot, at least in my hot summer, I will probably move the Greenstalk into the shade, especially during the hot part of the year, just to help them not dry out and to help keep them watered a little bit more. And you can do that here with the mover, which works great. Or you can do this with the ultimate spinner. Now, the ultimate spinner, it is a standalone option for you to buy, but you can also buy these wheels, which makes it where it can move around, but it also makes it where it can spin. I have this one on it, and that makes it easier to rotate, especially throughout the year when you're trying to maybe chase the sun. But I'm going to be using the ultimate spinner here, but before I put the tiers on here, I'm going to lock the wheels. Every other wheel is going to have a lock, and that way I don't lose it when I'm adding to the base there. In the size of the Greenstalk that I'm doing here, I'm going to have 5 of these leaf planters, and 3 of these levels have the Eversweet and 2 have the Ozark Beauty. So I've got the Eversweet here at the bottom. And then I'm going to put the watering disc here. I just need to make sure that the holes here are clear, because that's where the water is going to drain and water them throughout the season. So I have the Eversweet there. And then I'm going to add the Ozark Beauty. And once it's in place, it'll snap pretty easily. Next, we're going to add another watering disc. Okay, that is the top tier. So now we just need to add the watering basin. And we have that one constructed. Now I'm going to unlock the wheels. Move this aside. And now we'll construct the original planter. Same thing, I'm going to use the ultimate spinner with wheels. Make sure the wheels are locked. And this one I'm doing Ozark Beauty, 2 Ozark Beauties and an Eversweet. So we'll start out with the Ozark Beauty. Here we have both strawberry planters planted. This is the original 3-tier and also the leaf 5-tier. The final thing I need to do is water, and I'm going to water it from the top. Since I have some extra organic rev here, I'm just going to add a little bit to the basin just to give it a little bit of extra boost. And this organic rev mixture, like I mentioned, is a 50-50 blend, but when you're normally watering your plants with organic rev, you can do an ounce to a gallon, so it's much more diluted. So this will be a really good way to get these roots even more established and also not waste what you've already soaked your strawberry plants in. So once I get these watered and the water is coming out the bottom, all I have to do is keep it watered and let's see how they grow.